I don't know about you, but I can't believe that it's August. When I had anticipated what this summer would be, or when I'd imagined like what my summer would look like, it feels like that time's already happened or the time's already gone. It was only like an idea of summer that I had, which I never got to live out. I don't know if you can relate to this feeling, but that's kind of what's inspired me to talk about this. That feeling of urgency or of like always projecting a future or, oh, it will be good then. Like, it's great to have things to look forward to, but I think it's also great to romanticize what's happening now and what's going on now. That kind of ties into two of the things that I want to talk about in today's video. This is The Little Things, a series to help you notice and appreciate the little things and the little lessons we can take from week to week. Each episode I go through 3 little things that may seem really small or silly or insignificant, and you might be like, why does that matter? But the point with this series is to encourage you to notice and appreciate the little things in your life, because the little things make a big difference. And 2 of those little things are to do with what I mentioned there about this idea of summer in terms of like urgency or projection, and then romanticizing. So let's start with romanticizing your life. It's been getting dark earlier, so you know, where before I'd be driving back from somewhere at like 9:30 and it would be still completely bright. Now I'm driving back and I need my headlights on and it's, you know, getting actually quite dark, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'd forgotten what it's like to drive in the dark. I'm not the biggest fan of it. But that has really shown me, oh, things are changing quite a lot. But being able to then romanticize that time, put on like a specific playlist or a specific album as I'm driving. And so I'm trying to, I mean, it's been really hot lately, so I've just been having the windows open all the time, so it's not like I've been having like my fairy lights on or candles going. But now that it's getting darker earlier, I'm like, oh, I need to take advantage of that and have my candles going or have my fairy lights on. Romanticize this time. Summer is definitely my least favourite season, and so I don't know if I always have this idea of summer that's just never ever gonna match up to the reality, because I just don't like it. Like, I'm wearing a jumper now. That was not have been possible a few days ago because it was boiling hot, but I just don't like the heat. And so I'm always thinking like, oh, there's this sense of possibility or this sense of freedom, or because it's light later, it feels like there's more time. Whereas in winter, when it's getting dark before you even finish work, it feels like the days are very truncated. So it's like this sense of possibility in summer. So maybe that's like what I like, but realistically, I don't like it that it's boiling hot. Like, it's not an enjoyable time for me. And I think maybe like all the stuff I saved on my Pinterest board, or like this thing I imagined, it's like, that's now, like, I need to stop thinking that that's happening in a few weeks or in a few months, because in a few weeks we'll be into September. It's happening now. And just looking at the little things, like I cleaned my room recently and just appreciating like everything in its place, hanging the laundry out and like being present during that, or hand washing some stuff and hanging it on the line and being like, yes, I can appreciate this small thing. I think it was a Thich Nhat Hanh talks about being present as you're washing up, and like comparing life to the process of doing that, or like life is in that moment. I think there's also one about comparing life to a cup of tea, where you make the tea and then before you realise it, you've sort of like absent-mindedly been drinking it like as you're working or as you're watching something or as you're chatting, whatever. And then you look down, and before you even know, the tea is gone. And so I've been wanting to like be more present, actually absorb where I'm at and what is happening, because it is so easy for the time to just go, and you will look down and the tea is gone and you're like, what happened there? Really noticing like the small details, like I said with the washing, or like being present doing the washing up, being present unloading the dishwasher, like just trying to take little snapshots of like the way the clouds look, or trying to form like a memory that involves, so like washing up is quite a good one, because you've got like the smell of the washing up liquid and like the lukewarm or warm water, whatever. I was washing clothes, so it wasn't like boiling hot water, it was like lukewarm water, and just like trying to take a snapshot of like what this looks like, or what this moment feels like. I had a podcast on, it was quite peaceful, trying to be in that moment and trying to romanticize that and be grateful for it. The other thing would be like removing any kind of urgency. I noticed this specifically because it's kind of related to the way you treat thoughts about addiction, in terms of just remove the urgency that's telling you have to act now and just examine the thought. But it's also great for like impulsive shopping. You know, before you think, oh, I have to buy this jumper, I have to buy this cardigan, these shoes look so nice, before like just impulsively buying something, remove the urgency from it and be like, okay, I'll come back to that. Making a wish list for clothes and be like, okay, I quite like the look of that, or I need, I don't know, like a new jumper. Think about something that you're like feeling drawn to buy and be like, okay, if I still want to buy this thing in 2 weeks or a month or even like a week, if you're used to just like buying things impulsively, doing that removes the urgency from it. And I think that works in tandem with the first point about romanticizing the moment, removing the urgency of like wanting to get to another place, being where you are, even if you're not necessarily entirely happy with being in that moment. There may be things about your situation that you're like, I wish things were different, but you don't have to just like rush through this phase just because you wish you weren't there. I remember seeing something again on Pinterest, because I'm always on Pinterest. I love how it's like social media without the drama. It's just like things, the algorithm works out like what you want to see. Do you want to see quotes, or do you want to see like outfit photos? Do you want to see like lovely nature sunsets and stuff, like camping photos people have taken of the sky or whatever when they're hiking? Like, it works that out and then it just shows more of those things to you, and there's no like drama. If there's any comments, it's people being like, oh my gosh, where's that dress from? You know, it's very wholesome. But I saw a quote on there that was saying about like, don't rush through this phase of your life. Like, if you're in college, I think this was obviously written by an American person, but they're like, if you're in college, don't waste your college years like just dreaming about how you want to live in your own apartment in the city, for example. You may still want that, but there are things that you might be missing or that you could easily miss. Good things about this time, like, I think it's pretty obvious the things that you might miss about college, even if, or university when you're there, like the time freedom. I mean, yeah, there are obviously like trade-offs in terms of maybe you don't have as much money as you do when you're having a full-time job. It's not like perfect, but there are things that you will miss about that like phase, and don't rush through that. It's kind of like working out how that goes with this idea of summer that I thought I was gonna have, and it's sort of just been and gone already. I mean, saying that, obviously we've just had some really, really hot weather here, so summer is still very much here, but it's just interesting the way that I thought it was gonna be versus the way that it is. And then the next little thing that I wanted to talk about is to do with motivation and action. So I mentioned how it's really nice just noticing that my room is really clear and clean at the moment, and I've got a video that I've in the process of editing about this process, because I did start a series probably a few months ago about decluttering, and so I want to keep working on that. That's like a long-term thing. But I look around my space now and I'm like, it's so nice to just have this. The little thing I wanted to talk about is related to motivation and action, because a couple days ago now, without even thinking about it, I was like, I'm going to clean my room. And it was because I was setting up some, I mean, I think you can just barely see it. This is a speaker. I've got my new record player and speakers video coming out about that. But because I had that, I was like, I want to do a really deep clean of my room. I took everything apart and I did this side of the room deep clean. And then a couple days later, just sort of spur of the moment, I was like, I'm gonna clean the rest of the room, like that side. And just deciding to do that, I didn't wait for like the motivation to do that. It was more just like, I'm doing this now. Like, this is why people talk about how it's important to build a routine, because then you're removing motivation from the action, right? You're just like, this is what I do because it's part of my routine. You're not like, oh, I don't feel like doing this, or I'm feeling too tired to do this. It's like, no, this is what I do because it's built into a routine. I've done a few videos about routines on my channel, so I will leave one of them in the cards and in the description if you want to hear more about that. Routines can be really useful because they are removing that motivation factor. And like, if I had been relying on the motivation to clean my room and to do that deep clean where I moved my bed to hoover all under my bed, like, I'm so happy it's done now, but if I had been relying on motivation to do that, it would have never happened. It was more just like, okay, I'm doing this. Like, my feelings weren't involved. I was like, this is just what's happening. And now that I've done that, it's been something that was sort of hanging over me for so long, because I have like underbed storage and I know it could get really dusty, and so I've been sort of putting off dealing with that. But now it's done. It's like that weird feeling at the end of going through an exam period or something, where you've done all the exams, you've done all the work, but you're so used to having something to do, like having something to revise for or something to prepare for, that when all the exams are done, you're sort of sat there like, yeah, I'm reading this thing, or I'm watching this, or I'm, you know, just cooking, doing whatever I want, but it feels like I should be doing something else. Like, you feel almost guilty for just having a nice time and reading whatever you want, because you're like, I should be revising, but it's like, no, the exams are done. I don't have to think about that anymore. That's sort of what I feel now in terms of my room. I have this sort of like overhanging dread or overhanging guilt being like, you need to clean your room, that's like left over from all that time where I was relying on my motivation and I just had no motivation to clean. And now I've actually done it and I still feel like it's not been done. Like there's a part of me that's not registered it yet, so I'm still trying to like make myself feel guilty about it or whatever, in the same way of exams. So it's quite a nice feeling because it's like, oh no, I don't have to feel bad about that. Like I've done that. I said I was going to do it. Eventually, you know, get the underbed storage out, clean everything. And I've done it. Like that's, it's a nice feeling. Don't rely on motivation if you want to take action. Just do the thing, like seize the moment. If you have an inclination to like all of a sudden empty your bin or like go through a bunch of stuff, just do, like don't wait. Act on that impulse if you can and be like, yes, we're doing this, because you can then gain motivation through the action. Like you, as you're doing the thing, you're like, oh, this is so good. I actually feel like really energized because I am doing the, you know, going through my wardrobe and doing this task that I've put off or whatever it is. I will leave one of my videos about routines on the screen if you want to check that out. I will also leave the previous Little Things episode, so if you liked this episode, you can see more of the videos in this series and start focusing on the little things in your life, because the little things really do make a big difference. God bless, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.